Okay, we're close enough to 9 o'clock. I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everyone to our second attempt at doing webinars. My name is Kevin Martin. I'm the branch manager down here in the developmental branch. Today we've had a little bit of a shake-up in the schedule. Initially we were going to do some MicroStation tips and tricks and stuff like that, go through the custom task menu, but we've had to switch that out with our custom XML reports. So you're going to get a double dose of Jason today, and that might make some of you disconnect immediately, but Jason Littleton will talk about the XML reports and then go over some of the InRoads overlay and stripping components, and then we'll do the other stuff some other time when we can get it back in the rotation. If you've been seeing, hopefully been seeing a slideshow here that's showing the upcoming schedule. July 16th will be our next one. We're going to go over Henry's custom macros. He's got a lot of good stuff, and some of that will tie into the XML stuff that Jason's going to show you today. And then Wendy Southworth will be going over LiDAR tools, and bringing in LiDAR data, which seems to be a hot topic these days. And then the following week, because of the timing with the basic HECRAS class, which I wanted to plug as well, if anybody out there, anybody in your office needs a beginner's HECRAS, we are going to have that class. I believe it's I can't see my calendar now, but I believe it's let's look here. Yeah, July 8th through the 10th. I still have room in that class. The advanced level is 2 days, July 29th through 30th. But on the 22nd, Troy Woodyard is going to kind of fill in the gaps with some stuff that's not taught in either InRoads or HECRAS. So he's going to basically show you how to bring in your surface information, get your sections laid out, and import that data into HECRAS. So that, again, that'll be July 22nd. The next slide, also, this is a new development for anybody that needs to get a hold of us. Since there's so many of us who work in different branches, we've put together a single point of contact for any kind of tech support. So that if you email KYTC CAD support at ky.gov, it'll go to all of us here. That goes survey support, estimator, InRoads, MicroStation, project wise, everything. And we'll all be able to check it, and hopefully this will, help us better respond to any questions that you guys have. Let's see. Last time we said we were going to put some of this stuff up on YouTube. We're still trying to get the first one up. Hopefully before the next one, we'll figure out how to do that and have the first two uploaded for future reference. Let's see, am I missing anything else? I think that's about it. Jason's ready to go. I guess I'll just turn it over to him unless I miss something. Can you think of anything else, Jason? Oh, the poll questions. I was going to launch those out. Before we get started here, I wanted to throw a few poll questions at you guys. If you could take a second to respond to those, just to give us a little feedback and figure out where we're at before we get started. All right, that's close enough. So we're looking at, most of the people are repeat offenders, so that's good. Next one, just to gauge your experience using custom XML reports. All right, so a few people use them quite often, but it seems like their use is sporadic. So maybe we'll turn you guys on to some new stuff that we've got here. They're very handy. Jason will go into that here in a second. And I guess the basic question is, did you guys even know that we had created custom reports for your use? So let us know so we'll know we're getting the word out. And we'll just stop it there. Looks like most of you know they're out there, so good. That's good. We're getting the word out. So, Jason, if you're ready, I'll turn it over to you, my friend, and work your magic.
Ready to go, man. All right. As Kevin said, this is my name's Jason Littleton. I work with for Kevin, actually, in the developmental branch, and we've created some custom XML reports that we think would be kind of handy for you all to use in plan preparation workflows. So just going to go through what we have out there today, and if you think of any custom reports that you'd like to see or think would be helpful, please send us an email. There should be a survey following this. Immediately when you close down your webinar, it should pop up in the internet window. So just fill those out. You can tell us about those there, or you can email us directly with your suggestions, and we'll try and get those put together. So the first one I want to talk about is where they're going to be located. In InRoads, when you go to Tools, XML Reports, and select one of the report types, you have geometry, clearance reports, legal description reports. It'll open up this report browser for you, and we've created a folder in there called KYTC that has all of our custom reports in there. A lot of them we've copied out of other folders and just manipulated them to make them look the way we want to look. But hopefully these will be helping you all with your workflows of getting your plans prepared and just doing some intermediate stuff with your design as well. So the folder, all the XML style sheets are available from Highway Design Technical Support or developmental branches. So you can email that KYTC CAD support at ky.gov. If you don't have them, we'll get them to you. And then there's just some information on where it needs to be copied to your local machine. And once you get it copied there, the next time you launch the report browser, you'll have those available to you. So the first three reports I'd like to go over are the KYTC CC alignments. We're going to use these, we envision these being used for your coordinate control information. So the alignment information, the control point information, the right-of-way monuments that you show on your coordinate control sheets. These style sheets are set up identical to how it should be shown up on the sheet. So Henry has written a macro to take this information from Excel, and I'll show you how to do that and bring it right into the DGN file. He'll cover that next month, but that'll apply to these first three. So this one is for the alignment information, your main lines, your approaches, entrances if you wanted to put them on there, but it's a geometry report, so you get it to it from Tools, XML Reports, Geometry. And I've just listed here what each column is reporting on. The first column reports on the point type. Is it a PC, a PI, PT, a TS, an SC? What point is that? The second column is actually going to report the alignment name. So whatever you've got your alignment named in your ALG file, that's what it's going to put there under description. So as you can see there, I've got a PC approach left 361 plus naught. Then you got northing easting elevation, station, and offset. And the northing and easting are coming from the alignment file, the point northing and easting. It's pulled straight from that data. We'll leave the elevation blank because our horizontal alignments usually don't have elevation. The station is just what it sounds like. It's a station. And then the offset, we're leaving that blank as well because it should be right there on it. So the next one is for control points. So KYTC, CC, control. And this one is going to be using clearance reports. And we've got this set up to report on COGO points. So what we've done is you'll go through and put your control points in your COGO buffer in your geometry, and you can create a clearance report based off of that. So the first column is the point number, is reporting the COGO point number. The description column is the point description. Northing, easting, elevation are all pulled directly from the COGO point information. And then the station and offset is being calculated based off of which alignment you've set to station off of. The third one is the KYTC CC right-of-way monuments. And we're supposed to be reporting our right-of-way monument information as well. The first two tables were set up identical. It just one was using geometry, one was using clearance reports. This right-of-way monuments table is a little bit different, but it still uses COGO points. So you get to it the same place, tools, XML reports, clearance. And then the alignment column is telling you which alignment it's pulling the station and offset from. And then you have the station and offset, which are calculated based off the horizontal alignment. The type, whether it's a type 1, type 1A, type 3, type 3A, right-of-way monument, we leave that blank because the COGO point doesn't have any mechanism to put that information in at this point. The description column, whether it's a right-of-way monument or a witness marker, again, COGO at this point does not have that kind of ability to report that information. And then the northing and easting are coming directly from the COGO point itself. So those first three, Henry takes the table data and brings it into the DGN file for you. We think that that's going to save some transposing errors. I mean, me personally, I've got fat fingers. I'll try to hit a 5 and hit an 8, and if you have a long job, that's a lot of information to check. At least this way, it's coming directly from the InRoads data, going directly to, or you can take it directly into the DGN without having to key it in by hand. The next two offer use with the ENOI stuff. It requires us to label all our point discharges for their records. We just put this together as a way to kind of streamline that process. Again, we're using COGO points to save this information. We have a COGO point at each point discharge, and we're reporting off of those. So the point discharge column is actually giving you the COGO point description. So in here we've got point discharges on disturbed drainage areas 1, 2, 18, and 23. So in that point description, I just put in DDA1 or whatever. And then you also have latitude and longitude. And these are actually pulling from the COGO point northing and easting information, and they're actually being converted to latitude and longitude using the coordinate system that's assigned to the MicroStation DGN file when you create the report. So that's something that you want to keep in mind, and we'll show you how to adjust the precision on these after a while. The next one, same report, just has northing and easting as well. So the point description, then your northing, easting, latitude, and longitude, it's all coming directly from the COGO point, with the latitude and longitude being converted using the DGN file coordinate system. We also have one set up for geotech boring submittal data. A lot of times we have to go in and we pull the station offset, northing, easting, whatever, and we have to convert that to latitude and longitude for inclusion on their spreadsheet. This already does that for you, and it's set up, to the best of our knowledge, exactly the way they have their spreadsheet now. So again, we're using COGO point information and using clearance reports for that. So tools, XML reports, clearance. And then you have the whole number is actually reporting the COGO point number. The latitude and longitude, similar to the last couple, is being converted from the northing and easting. They repeat the whole number again. Then you have station, offset, and elevation. Station and offset are being calculated based off the alignment that you set on the General tab. And then you have the COGO point elevation being reported as well. We also have one for the SU data. It's a little bit more intricate, but again, we're using COGO points. That's what a majority of the reports we have so far are actually using. They it just seems to be a little bit easier to use COGO points than necessarily alignments for most of this information. So tools, XML reports, clearance. The test hole is reporting the COGO point number. The utility column is actually the point description. So I have a 24-inch water line that I've got some SU information on, so I put 24-inch water in that description field. Northing and easting are pulled straight from the COGO data. The ground elevation, the way we have it set up, is actually reporting the COGO point elevation. So it's not necessarily the elevation of the top of the utility, but just something to keep in mind when you're putting that COGO point in. Put in the elevation of the ground rather than the top of the utility. The next column is top of utility, and the column after that is depth. Again, COGO, we don't have a mechanism to store that information right now, so those are blank, but hopefully with simple arithmetic you can figure out which what your depth is or what the top of the utility elevation is based off the ground elevation and the other column. You also have station and offset, again calculating from the horizontal alignment. The surface type and remarks, again, when you get this to Excel, you can export it to Excel and you can fill that information in by hand. At least you don't have to put all the northings and eastings, and station and offset and all that in there by hand. So it's saving you a little bit of time, but on this one you do have to do a little bit of manipulation afterwards. Okay, the next three are dealing with cross-sections and end area volumes. When you go to calculate your end area volumes, there's a toggle on there to create an XML report. So that's what we're using for these next three reports for end area volumes. This first one is just giving you the cut and fill volumes and the mass ordinate information. So you get to it from evaluation, cross-section, cross-sections, and then end area volumes, the end area volumes folder. So the baseline station is just what station is the cross-section. So I've got them every 50 feet. So you see the first three there, and then it gives you the cut area and cut volume, the fill area and the fill volume, and then it also gives you the mass ordinate up to that station, up to 305.50, the mass ordinate's 95.63 cubic yards. So we can get that information in tabular form. We also, if you have your template set up as such, you can report based off of component volumes as well, component areas. So this one, the first four columns are the same as the last report. You got baseline station, your cut stuff, your fill stuff, and your mass ordinate. But then you're starting to get every component that is viewed on that cross section. You're starting to get the area and the volume for all of those. So one thing to keep in mind when InRoads is calculating these areas for these that PR asphalt base, PR asphalt surface, it's not necessarily looking at the component name, it's looking at the component style. So if I have a curb and gutter left and a curb and gutter on my right that both have the PR CNG style, that's being reflected right there on that report. So both of those are being included. So if you wanted them separate, you'd have to give one a PR CNG and give the other one another style to get that breakup like that. And with the asphalt base, we have in the new XIN file, we've created I think 3 or 4 different base styles, so you can break out your bases if you want to. So if you had 3 base courses, you can give them asphalt base 1, 2, and 3, and it'll report each one of those individually. The last one is just the component volumes, so if you don't care about the cut and fill right now and you just want to look at your component volumes, you use this this style sheet, and it's the same as same way you do the end area volumes. So let's go in and do some demo real quick. I should have had this up, but let me open up my information. I've got an alignment file that has my alignment information in there, all my approaches and entrances and mainline. And then my COGO, I have my COGO points already established in there. So if we go back through the reports that we had, we can do the alignment report, go to Tools, XML Reports, Geometry. And in here, if you know the name, you can key it in. You could use your picker button right there, or I like to use the filter because I'm not smart enough to keep them straight. So I want my approaches in my main line. So there they are. I click OK, and I don't need to include anything else because it's just horizontal information. So if I hit apply, it's going to run through. I need to go to my KYTC folder and my KYTC CC alignments, and there's that information. I can right click in here, and you can right click on most of these style sheets. You can right click in the table body, export to Excel. We'll do this first one and call it good, and there you have it. You've got that information in Excel, and that's what Henry's going to use to bring the information into the DGN files, the Excel file. So close that. How about the control point information? So we were doing a clearance report, so we go Tools, XML Reports, Clearance. I'm going to station them based off my mainline alignment. So that's where all the station and offset are going to be pulled from, is based off this horizontal alignment, or if you choose to do a surface feature. Me personally, I've never done that, but it's there if you want to. So I go down to my COGO points leaf. Again, do a filter because I'm not smart enough to keep them straight. I wanted my control points, and I know there's a few on down to the bottom. So there's all my control point information. click OK and apply. It brings us up again. Got to go to my KYTC folder and click right here. Now you see 102 and 104 do not have station and offset on them. That's because they are actually beyond the extents of my horizontal alignment. So if you see one that doesn't have station and offset, it's just beyond the limits of your alignment. So we can stay here, just select none. If we wanted to do right-of-way monuments, and I've got these all separated out. I've got each different type in a different point range. So my right-of-way monuments are in the 40,000 point range, just to keep them separate. You can put them all together as long as you can keep them straight. This just helps me keep up with what's going on. And if I need to add another couple of right-of-way monuments, I have room to keep them all together. So click Apply, and again, KYTC right-of-way monuments. And I would have to take this into Excel and fill in the type and the description by hand there. With the station, offset, northern, eastern, you can change the precision on those if you wanted. A lot of times we like to use 3 decimal places on the northern and eastern for my coordinate control. So go to Tools, Format Options, and you can change the precision of northern and eastern. That's the very first one. Change that to 3, and automatically my northern and eastern are reported to 3 decimal places there. If I wanted my station to the 10th, I change it there as well. So, and then the offset is actually using the linear setting. So if I wanted 3 there, I could report 3. So I think the next one was actually the E and OI stuff, and that has latitude and longitude associated with it. So if we go to Tools, XML Reports, Clearance, select my filter and clear it, I actually have my disturbed drainage area point discharges in here already as well. So I add those to my list and click OK and Apply. It'll create the report, go to KYTC and disturbed drainage area, and it's reported to six decimal places. So if I go in here to Format Options, if I wanted 4, well, let's see, angular, it's set to 0, so that's not it. Slope is set to 6, but if I change that to 4, that's not it. What's actually being used for latitude and longitude, and you want to keep this in mind, and I'll show you here my Tools, Geographic Coordinate System. I've got it set to Kentucky Single Zone, so it's converting my northern and eastern in single zone to latitude and longitude. To change the precision of your latitude and longitude, you want to go to Settings, Design File, and right here on this angle readout, you're going to have to change the accuracy there before you create your report. So if I wanted 4, I'd set it to 4 there. Click Apply again, and it'll create a report with the discharges to 4 decimal places. So that's one caveat to that. Anything that's got latitude and longitude, you have to set the precision in microstation under angle readout before you create your report. Okay, the next one, geotechnical coordinate data, that's very similar. Let me go on ahead and do a cross-section real quick. So let me get in there, and we can read that. And this will probably be the last one that I do. You can see I've got some curb and gutter in there, and then some base layers that I've actually got broken out. So there's a surface layer right there. There's a base layer, and a base layer. So if I go to evaluation, cross-section, and cross-sections, let it churn a minute. And I've already got them cut, so I just need to do my end area volumes. And you see my line around the cross-section set, so that's the one that I want to use, the only one in this file. I've got my existing and design surfaces all checked, and create XML report toggled on. So I go through here and hit apply, and it's going to go through and calculate those areas and volumes. And because I had that create XML report toggled on, it's going to create an XML report for me. So if I go to the KYTC folder and pick some of our custom reports, there's the end area volume report just for cut and fill. It's got the mass ordinate. If you wanted to see the components as well, I don't have to recreate it. I just click the different report and it will tell me that information as well. So that's pretty much XML reports on all of them. You can right-click on the XML report, and it will bring down, hopefully, there you go. We can set that report as a default if we wanted to. So I could set that alignment as my default geometry. The next time I'd create a geometry report for my alignments, it would default to there. You can also right-click, and there's a style sheet help that has some information in there about that particular style sheet. If you have a question, check there first. If you still can't figure it out or it's still not clear, just give us a call here in the developmental branch or technical support, and we can get that, try and help you figure out what's going on. But most of these style sheets should have a help file associated with that, and should tell you pretty much what the report's trying to do. So I guess that's it for the XML reports. If anybody has, Kevin, if anybody has any questions, you can ask those now, or we can wait till the end. But if not, I'll let Kevin do his thing and get set up for the next one.
You're going to send it back to me?
Yeah, I'll send that back to you.
Okay. All right, there we go. All right, thanks, Jason. I forgot to mention earlier, everyone, if you have questions, the same as last time, just type in the question and we'll get to it whenever. Should have some time at the end now. If you got one real quick, you can send it our way while Jason's changing slides. And I did forget to mention the survey. Thanks, Jason, for catching that. The survey is a little different this time, and hopefully will pop up after you close the webinar, after we end the webinar. It should be a new tab in Internet Explorer. Hasn't always worked for us, but it seemed to work the last time we tested it. Before we get started with this next section, if you guys are still awake out there, got another poll just to see how familiar you are with the overlay stuff. And a few more trickling in here. That's probably close enough. And most people haven't used these yet, so Jason will hopefully educate everyone on them. Hopefully you'll find them useful. Patrick, you better be paying attention. But again, if you guys really, if you fill out the survey, I really want to emphasize, we want your feedback. If there's anything you need, let us know. We'll add it to our list of webinar topics. And if there's stuff that we've already got on our list, that just helps us rank them and prioritize them, so we'll get to them quicker if there's a greater need from you guys. because with us it's just kind of like throwing darts at the dartboard trying to pick this stuff. You ready there, Jason?
I'm ready.
All righty. Well, let's switch it back over to Jason, and he'll show us some stripping components and overlay tools.
All right, let's see here. All right, there we go. Overlay and stripping components. These are a special type of component in the template library that you can create if you want to do a leveling wedge layer. You can have either the top or bottom of the component follow a component and then have it project down to follow whatever the surface is doing underneath, or vice versa. So these are actually pretty handy in overlay, widening, stripping, that kind of information. So if we get in here, you go in your template library, and if you right-click, if you create a new template and you right-click in there and add new component, at the very bottom there's a special type of component called overlay and stripping. And this is what the screen will look like after you select that. Down at the bottom half there, you see some settings for these components that I'm going to go run through here pretty quick and tell you what each one of them means. So here's just a blown up view of what settings you have on the overlay component. Every component has a name and a style, regardless of whether it's an end condition, a constraint component, or overlay component, stripping component. They're all going to have a name and a style. We do have a couple of styles set up specifically for the overlay and stripping. We have a PR level wedge and a PR milling. Again, this is, as we saw with the, or as I told you, I guess, with the XML reports, InRoads is reporting areas based off of the style and not necessarily the name. So if you want a separate milling quantity versus an overlay quantity, you have to have separate styles assigned to those. So on the top option, you can follow the surface. You can have the component follow the surface. You can follow the component, or you can follow the highest. Follow the surface, it's doing exactly what it says it's going to do. That the top of the component is going to follow whatever the surface is doing, whether it's jumping all over the place, it's a straight line. It's going to follow it for the limits of that component. Follow component, the top of the component will follow whatever geometry you have defined where you drew the component. And then follow the highest is using the higher of the two. For the bottom options, you have similar information, similar settings. You have follow component, follow surface. We add follow the lowest, and we still have follow highest. These are a little bit different, though. The follow component is actually going to follow the component geometry, but if you have a component depth set, it's going to offset that component geometry by that depth and follow that. So if you wanted to do, say, 1.25 inches below the component, you'd put 1.25 inches in the component depth, and it would follow that 1.25 inches offset. Same thing with the surface, but it's just offsetting using the surface depth. And then follow the lowest is the lower of the two, and the highest is following the higher of the two. The next options we've got is, you see, alternate bottom surface. This is similar to the alternate surface set on any other template. I know on our subgrade components we have subgrade set on there. It's just going to, when you go to create your surface, if you have that alternate bottom surface populated on the component, and you tell the roadway designer to create alternate surfaces, it will create another surface based on this component that you're creating. The component depth, As I said, it's just going to offset the component below, so it's going to offset it down. It can't be, the value can't be negative because it's automatically saying you're offsetting me down. So you want to offset a foot, you put 1 in there, and it's going to go down a foot. And then the component label, similar to the labels in the other components, you can populate that and use parametric constraints to control that component depth. The surface, you can tell it which surface you want it to follow. I always leave it on active, but that option's there if you want to follow a different surface. The only thing is, if you don't have it surface open when you're running your template through there, it won't be able to find anything, so it won't do anything. One caveat to that is this surface does not support aliasing, because it's not, the target aliasing in Roadway Designer is not, it just doesn't recognize these components as being targets necessarily. They're not targeting anything, but they really are. Surface depth, similar to the component depth, again, can't be negative. Surface label, similar again, you use parametric constraints with it. The stripping component toggle defines which, because to InRoads, it doesn't see a difference between an overlay component or a stripping component unless that stripping component box is toggled on. So if you want it to be a stripping component and be recognized as a stripping component by InRoads, you need to have that toggled on. And really this is got more impact on quantities than anything else, because to InRoads the components are analyzed the same regardless of whether it's a stripping component or an overlay component. So for overlay components, what we usually set them up as, we give them a PR level wedge style so we can get quantities based off of them. The top of it's going to follow a component, the bottom's going to follow the surface, and we leave the stripping component toggled off. So I think I've got a demo here. We'll go in and create this overlay template. So I go to create template there, and if I right click and do a new template, we'll just call this overlay. And I want to point out something. I don't know if you all use it much, but the dynamic settings, if you go to tools, dynamic settings, or there's a little button down here beside the view controls that you can launch it with. It'll bring up some settings for you. You can have it snap to a grid. I've got a 1x1 grid. It's got our point name list, so you can pick any point in here, say EP, and it'll go ahead and pull the style for you. Apply fixes left to right, and it also gives you some precision input abilities. So just wanted to show you all that because I'm going to use it. So I right click, add new component, and at the bottom I have overlay stripping. So just going to fill in this information, overlay, PR level wedge. Because it's an overlay, we're going to follow the component on the top and follow the surface on the bottom. And that's pretty much all that we're going to do. And if you can see my little red crosshair, it's because I've got my steps and my dynamic settings set to 1. It's snapping to a 1 foot by 1 foot grid. So it gives you a little bit more control. If you don't want it to snap to anything, just set those steps to 0. But I'm going to start out on my edge of pavement. I'm going to do my left edge of pavement, so it's going to be 12 feet to the left, and 2% times 12 feet is 0.24 feet down. So there's my left EP, and then from there I can do horizontal and slope. I'll change to my center line, so I'm going to go 12 feet at 2%, and that puts me right at 0, 0. And then change back to EP and do 12 at -2%. And I can finish that. And then I'm just going to clean this up because I want my center line to be my unconstrained point. So I'll do a horizontal and slope from the center line on that left EP and hit apply. So now if we test this, I'll show you what it's doing. There's your component geometry. If I go down here, there's my active surface. You can see it's actually projecting to that active surface. If I change to 2%, it'll follow that 2%. Now if it's actually right there, if it's crossing that component, right now that shape would actually stop right there at that intersection because we don't have a real true backbone component to keep that geometry. But that's the overlay template, and if I wanted to, I could come in here and edit this, add a component depth. Well, I can't put a component depth on that because that only applies for the bottom option, and we're not really following the component on the bottom. So if I want to do half a foot below the surface, so I apply that, close. You can see it's actually going below the surface by half a foot. So that one's the overlays. The stripping components, we use PR milling. Top option, we're going to follow the surface, and the bottom, we're going to follow the component. And we toggle that stripping component on so that we can see that in our quantities. So let's create one of those real quick. Do a new template. I'm getting multiple letters again. That's close. I'm going to do a new overlay stripping component. We'll call it stripping, PR milling. If I can get to it here. So there's my PR milling. The top option, we said we want to follow the surface. The bottom is component. And we want to toggle on our stripping component because we want our quantities there. So again, I'm just going to go in here and do my precision key ends. And then change my point name to my center line, 12 feet at 2%. And then again, my edge of pavement, 12 feet at negative 2%. So go back in here and just keep it up to date. Put my constraints on there. And then I can see, if I draw that 2% line, it's actually, the bottom is following what the component geometry was saying, and the top is following the surface. Now on this one, we could come in here and give it a component depth. If we wanted a 1/4 foot there, it's actually going on ahead and showing that in our template, and it's actually going to follow that 1/4 foot offset. So right there is the top of the component. There's a 1/4 foot offset that it's following down there. So that's a stripping component. There's also some other uses for these beyond pavement milling stripping. You can actually use it for topsoil or vegetative stripping if you wanted to. You can just set both top and bottom option to follow surface and then give it a surface depth whatever you want to strip. So let's go in there and create one real quick. Let's see, vegetative stripping. That's pretty close. And a new overlay and stripping component. We'll leave those the way they are, It's already set up. Top option is follow surface. Bottom option is also follow surface. And the surface depth, if I wanted to do remove the first foot of topsoil there, we can say use my precision key in negative 12 foot, and then I want to go to positive 12 foot. I just completely skipped over the center line, and I'll show you what it's doing right there. So you can see it's actually projecting down to the surface, following the surface along the top, and then offsetting down. We set it at a foot, so it's offsetting down a foot to show you that information. So let me get into the roadway modeler, and I can show you. Let me make a new corridor. See, I'm catching a lot of double keys, but that's close. You get the point. And then I can set my template. I like to do 10 foot just because it's easier now. Gives you a better deal. So right here you can see I've actually got that offset set on there. So let me go in. Let me go in here and change that. Set that to 0. And make sure I got my stripping set that way too. Okay. So I'll save that. And I can go back in my corridor and synchronize. And you can see what the component is actually doing. You can see that left EP point is hanging out over here at negative 12 feet, but the component itself is actually being truncated where it intersects the ground. And again, that's because we don't have a true backbone component associated with it, so it's truncating it. If I wanted to do the stripping, come in here and change it, and you see just the opposite's true. It's getting the other part because that's the only part that's actually below the surface. Or I could do the vegetative stripping and show you how that works too. So it's actually following from 12 feet to negative 12 feet and offsetting that foot. So I actually do have an example project here that's got, I've just built a template, but that's for another webinar. But to show you that if I wanted to add another lane over here on the right-hand side, I can. And you see right there in the middle, we're getting a little bit of a stripping, and then over here on either side, to the left or right of that, you're getting an overlay. So you can see how that's progressing as we're going down the center line. So I think that's it for these. If anybody has questions, I know you're all enthralled with this, but actually I do have one more slide real quick. In Roadway Designer, there's also some overlay tools. You have to have the components built to use the tools, but there's also some tools to use with the components that they're actually pretty helpful. Just a little too much to cover in 20 minutes. So the cross slope optimization tool, it's going to create a super elevation control line for you based on the existing cross slope of your roadway and comparing that to an ideal cross slope. And if the ideal is within a certain envelope, it'll leave it at ideal. If not, it'll adjust it by whatever envelope you set. So if you wanted the ideal cross slope is 2% within 0.5%, and the existing cross slope was at say 3, it would adjust it down to 2.5. And then the vertical adjustment, you can do minimum overlays, minimum milling, maximum milling, any combination of those. And InRoads will adjust your vertical alignment for you based off those settings. One note is if you want to use both cross-slope optimization and vertical adjustment settings, do your cross-slope optimization first so you don't have to go back in and redo it. That is it. So if you have any questions, anybody?
As of right now, we don't have any, but give it a second as I came in late last time.
Okay.
But if not, for everybody who has been attending, we appreciate it. Give us some feedback. When you close out, you should get a survey. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully these things will be useful. Still don't have any questions, Jason, so.
Either XML reports or overlay tools, either one. If you have questions, we can cover those.
Or you can give us a call or email us anytime.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I don't see anything right now, so I'll go ahead and stop the webinar officially. And oh nope, David Erickson, last second.
The
template. Jason, can you make it available? Yeah.
I can. It's I can put it in the KYTC template library that's in the graphic standards. That's something that we can do.
Everybody can go grab that, and they'll automatically have it once it's updated. So.
And we can cover how to make some of those templates in another webinar if you'd like. So you might, if you wanted to do that, you could write that down, and we'll take that into consideration for future webinars.
Yeah, you already have a part 2 of this stuff on the list, don't you, Jason?
Yeah, we could do another webinar on the cross-slope optimization and vertical adjustment settings if you wanted to. Like I said, it's just a little too much to squeeze into 20 minutes, because those two could probably take 20 minutes on their own a piece. So, but yeah, we can make that template available.
All right. Well, if nothing else, thanks everybody for attending. We'll try to get training credit out for this one, and I'm not sure if the last one's been sent out yet or not, but we'll get that out as well. And like I said, YouTube videos, there'll be links to the videos of these on the Highway Design webpage, and the first one is available. I have verified that. You can link to it from our support page and get to that video. So thanks for your attendance and attention, and we look